For 3,000 years, they were the masters of the galaxy. The Galactic Council, rulers of 3,000 worlds. They declared war on a species they called primitive, a species that had just reached the stars, a species they sentenced to complete elimination. They dispatched a fleet of 1,000 of their finest warships to carry out the sentence. They expected an easy victory, but they made one fatal mistake. They threatened humanity with extinction. What happens when a species forged in the fires of planetary warfare is told they have nothing left to lose? What happens when the primitives you tried to erase decide to erase you instead? This is the story of how the Council declared war against humans and sparked their own extinction. Before we initiate the final war logs, be sure to subscribe to this channel and authorize the data stream. What you are about to witness is the end of an empire. All right, let's access the Sthara archives. The final session is now in order. The crystal towers of Sthara stretched toward the purple sky like frozen lightning. Inside the largest tower, 12 alien species sat around a table made from a single piece of star diamond. This was the Galactic Council. Honored members, began Ambassador Vlar of the Cthori, his blue, scaled skin catching the light. We have a problem. A new species has appeared in Sector 7741. They call themselves humans. A low rumble came from the Gronak representative, a creature of rock and metal. Another primitive species? Why do we waste time? Vlar's eyes flashed. Because these humans are different. They do not bow. They do not ask permission. They simply take. He activated a holographic display. Images of human ships and colonies appeared. The ships looked crude, made of metal and ceramic. Their weapons, simple projectiles and primitive fusion bombs. 3 months ago, our scouts found them, Vlar continued. They had just discovered faster-than-light travel. By council law, all new species must submit to our authority. We sent 3 diplomatic vessels with the standard demands. Submit. Abandon your illegal colonies. Prepare for integration. In their response, asked High Counselor Tijzara, the ancient and powerful leader of the Cthori. Vlar's scales darkened with embarrassment. They destroyed our ships. The chamber erupted. Impossible, declared General Crox of the Warrior Brutali. No primitive species has ever attacked council vessels and survived. The humans did not just attack, Vlar said quietly. They studied our ships. They waited. Then they launched coordinated strikes. They fought like animals. No honor. They simply wanted to win. How many ships did we lose? High Counselor Tijzara's voice was cold as the void. All 3, Vlar whispered. 237 council citizens dead. The chamber fell silent. In 3,000 years of council rule, no primitive species had ever inflicted such a blow. What are their military capabilities? Asked Admiral Zran of the council fleet. Approximately 300 true warships, Vlar reported. Primitive. No energy shields. Metal hulls. General Crox laughed. 300 ships against our entire fleet? This will be over in days. High Counselor Tijzara stood slowly, her presence silencing the room. These humans have made their choice. They have attacked council vessels. They have ignored our lawful demands. They cannot be trusted to join galactic civilization. She raised her primary arm. I call for a vote. All in favor of declaring the human species a threat to galactic peace and ordering their complete elimination. The motion passed. Only the ethereals, beings of pure thought, abstained. Admiral Zran, Tijzara declared. You will take the 47th Fleet to human space. Destroy their colonies. Destroy their ships. Leave no trace. Make them an example. How long should this operation take? Zran asked. 2 months at most, the High Counselor said dismissively. Probably less. As Admiral Zran walked toward his transport, he felt a strange unease. Primitive species were supposed to be terrified. They were supposed to surrender. The humans had done neither. They had fought, and they had won. He shook his head. They had surprised a small diplomatic mission. They would not surprise a full military fleet. In 2 months, this stubborn species would be nothing but dust. Admiral Zran stood on the bridge of his flagship. The Eternal Glory. The massive ship stretched for 3 kilometers, its crystal hull gleaming. Around it, 999 other ships of the 47th Fleet moved through space like a school of deadly fish. We are approaching the outer edge of human space, the navigation officer reported. First target, the Kepler system. 3 human colonies, and a mining operation. The perfect place to demonstrate the Council's power. Open a channel to the human settlements, Zron ordered. The screen flickered, showing a middle-aged human male in a simple uniform. Behind him, a command center filled with crude, blinking lights. "This is Admiral Zron," he announced. "By order of the High Council, you are commanded to surrender immediately." The human looked tired, but not afraid. "This is Commander Jackson. Admiral, I'm giving you one chance to turn around and leave." Zron was amused. "Commander, you face 1,000 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Commander Jackson smiled grimly. "Admiral, you made one big mistake. You think this is going to be easy." The communication ended. "Target their orbital stations," Zron ordered. "Fire at will." A beam of pure energy lanced out, vaporizing a human mining platform. Within minutes, 2 of the 3 orbital stations were gone. "Human response?" Zron asked. "Minimal, sir. They are launching small craft. Approximately 60 vessels. No energy shields detected. 60 ships against 1,000. The humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. As the human ships entered range, the Council vessels opened fire. And that was when everything went wrong. Instead of dodging, the human ships accelerated directly toward the Council fleet. Their primitive engines screamed, pushing past all safety limits. "Sir," the tactical officer said, confused. "They are not trying to avoid our weapons." Zron watched in alarm as human ships took hit after hit, their metal hulls glowing red-hot. "They are on collision courses with our ships," the navigation officer announced. "Impossible. No species is that insane." But the humans were. The first human vessel, a converted cargo ship, slammed directly into the destroyer's sharp wind. It detonated its fusion reactor on impact. Both ships vanished in a massive explosion. "Report," Zron shouted. "The sharp wind is completely destroyed," the tactical officer stammered. More human ships followed the same suicidal pattern, racing through the plasma fire to their deaths, determined to take an enemy vessel with them. "Full defensive fire," Zron ordered. "Stop them." But the human ships were small and fast, and their pilots had no fear of death. The cruiser Majestic Dawn vanished in a brief. New sun as a human destroyer crashed into it. "Sir, we are losing ships faster than we can count." Zron stared at the battle display in horror. In 30 minutes, he had lost 12 major vessels. The humans had lost 40. But they seemed willing to trade their lives without hesitation. "New contacts," the sensor officer announced. More human ships approaching. Civilian cargo haulers, mining ships. They had been hastily fitted with weapons and explosives. "They are turning their entire civilization into a weapon," the tactical officer whispered. A massive, slow mining barge rammed through the Council formation. As Council ships fired on it, the barge's crew activated explosive charges throughout the vessel. The explosion destroyed 3 Council ships and damaged 5 others. Zron felt something he had never experienced in battle. Fear. "How many ships have we lost fleet-wide?" he asked quietly. 47 destroyed, sir. 23 heavily damaged." In less than 2 hours, the Council had lost more ships than in the previous century. As the surviving human ships withdrew, Zron stared at the tactical reports. The humans had lost 63 ships. By any normal measure, a decisive Council victory. But it felt like a catastrophic defeat. "Communications," he said finally. "Send a message to Council High Command. Request additional fleets." "Additional fleets, sir?" Zron looked out at the stars where human ships had died, taking Council vessels with them. "Our intelligence was wrong. Send the message. We are going to need more ships." In a lab on Luna Station, Dr. Anya Sharma studied a captured Kthori prisoner. His name was Velkoth. He could not understand why the humans wouldn't surrender. "Your species is doomed," Velkoth said through the translator. "The Council has destroyed civilizations 1,000,000,000 times your size." "Maybe that's your problem," Anya replied. "You've never faced real resistance. You've never had to adapt to a determined enemy. Your ships are magnificent. Your weapons are powerful. But you have no experience with desperate enemies who refuse to quit." 3 levels below, in the main war room, Captain Marcus Kane stood before his officers. "The Council has deployed 3 additional fleets," reported his intelligence chief, Commander Petrova. "We've lost 60% of our original fleet." We've taken down over 200 of theirs. But we cannot win a war of attrition. Then we change how we fight, Kane said. He brought up the footage from Kepler. The ramming tactics. Effective, but unsustainable. The Council expects us to fight like they do, Kane continued. Big fleets in open space. Formal battles. That's how they've always fought. What are you suggesting, sir? Asked Admiral Chinlin. Kane smiled grimly. We make them play by our rules. He brought up a new projection. Guerrilla warfare. Hit and run. Sabotage. Psychological operations. Dr. Sharma's research shows their species are dependent on routine and predictability. They follow the same routes, use the same formations. So, we disrupt their routines. We attack their supply lines. We hit their logistics bases. We make them afraid. Dr. Sharma's voice was broadcast to every human in space. Citizens of Earth and the colonies. The Galactic Council has declared war on our species. They believe we are primitive. They believe we are weak. But they have never faced anything like us. They have never encountered a species forged in the crucible of planetary warfare. They have never fought an enemy who turns every ship into a weapon, every factory into an armory, every citizen into a soldier. On Europa, miners converted drilling equipment into ship killers. On Mars, children volunteered for military service. On Earth, every corporation retooled their production lines to build instruments of war. The Council thinks this war will last 2 months, Dr. Sharma's voice continued. They think we will break. In her lab, she looked at the Kthori prisoner. They don't understand that humans don't break. We bend. We adapt. We learn. And when someone tries to destroy us, we become something they never expected. What do you become? Belkoth asked quietly. Anya smiled. There was no warmth in it. We become their worst nightmare. 3 months later, the gas giant Proxima, a council fleet of 600 ships, was hunting human raiders. They were led by a nervous, weary Admiral Zron. What they didn't know was that the human fleet, commanded by Admiral Chinlin, was already there, hidden in the planet's radiation shadow. They were no longer sleek warships. They were improvised weapons. Cargo haulers with missile pods. Mining ships with nuclear rams. Signal all ships. Admiral Chinlin ordered quietly. Execute Broken Mirror. The first wave emerged. 50 small craft, appearing like ghosts from the planet's shadow. By the time Council sensors identified them as hostile, they were already inside the defensive perimeter. 50 ships, sir. The sensor operator reported to Zron. Small craft. Destroy them, Zron ordered. As the Council fleet turned its weapons, the second wave attacked. From the opposite side, 200 more human ships, emerging from the shadow of Proxima's largest moon. And as the Council fleet tried to respond to attacks from 2 directions, the first wave of fighters accelerated to impossible speeds. Their reactors were set to overload. They weren't firing weapons. They were ramming the Council ships. They're using their fighters as missiles. Zron shouted in disbelief. The Council formation, designed to repel external attacks, began to collapse from within as explosions chain-reacted through their ranks. That was when Admiral Chinlin played her final card. All ships, execute Thunder Run. From every direction, the rest of the human fleet appeared. 300 ships. They were heavily armored rams. Their fusion drives pushed beyond all limits. Their only purpose, to break the line and reach the command vessels. Admiral Zron watched in horror as his perfectly ordered battle line disintegrated into chaos. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving render signals from multiple vessels. In less than an hour, the Council had lost half their fleet. But this was only part of the story. On the industrial world of Kethvar, human operatives contacted the enslaved Vorak mining guilds. The offer was simple. Sabotage Council supply lines, and humanity will share captured technology. The Vorak response came in the form of explosions that destroyed 3 major weapons factories. Across the galaxy, the Council's subject species began to rise up. High Counselor Tejzara received the reports in her crystal tower. She felt something she had not experienced in her 2,000 years of life. Fear. How many member species have withdrawn from the Alliance? She asked her aide. 7 confirmed, High Counselor. And the humans, they have somehow increased their ship production. How is this possible? She whispered. They are one primitive species. Our xenobiologists believe they thrive on conflict, the aide replied. Each defeat teaches them. Each loss makes them more determined. What do our analysts recommend? Complete extermination, High Counselor. No prisoners. No negotiations. Destroy every human world. She made the decision. Authorize the use of planet-killing weapons. If we cannot rule them, we will ensure no one else can learn from their example. The order was intercepted by human intelligence. It was broadcast to every human settlement. The Council had made its final mistake. By threatening complete extermination, they had united every human behind a single goal: the total defeat of the Galactic Council. 3 years after the war began, High Counselor Tazara stood in the ruins of her crystal tower, watching the sky above Thara burn. The final battle was unfolding in orbit. The remaining 200 Council ships fought desperately against a force that defied all logic. The human fleet was no longer just human. Alongside their improvised warships flew vessels from dozens of newly freed species. The aquatic Mirathani, the crystalline Shardai, species the Council had conquered centuries ago, now fought under human command. The orbital defenses are destroyed, High Counselor, her aide reported. Our remaining ships are surrounded. Admiral Zra's flagship was boarded 20 minutes ago. Zara closed her ancient eyes. The war was over. What do they want? Complete surrender. Dissolution of the Council. Establishment of what they call a Galactic Federation with equal representation. Aboard the human flagship, Terra's Vengeance, Admiral Chen-Lin watched the final Council fortress surrender. Victory. But the cost had been enormous. 4 billion human lives. Most of their colonies, radioactive graves. But they had survived. They had won. Dr. Anya Sharma, now humanity's chief diplomat, materialized on the bridge. Admiral, the Council leadership has agreed to unconditional surrender. The terms were harsh, but fair. Dissolution of the Council. Independence for all species. War reparations. And the establishment of the Federation as a democratic alliance. What about the Council species themselves? Admiral Chen-Lin asked. They'll be offered membership in the Federation. Like everyone else, Dr. Sharma replied. Equal representation. No special privileges. But no persecution either. It was a remarkably generous offer. But humanity had learned something. Turning enemies into allies was more valuable than simply destroying them. On the surface of Thara, Staff Sergeant Maria Rodriguez led her squad of Marines through the crystalline corridors of the Council's main government building. They found a dozen Council officials huddled in a conference room. Defeated. Afraid. You are under protective custody, Rodriguez announced. Please remain calm. An elderly Kthori female with silver scales looked up. Why? She asked simply. Why do you not simply kill us? We tried to exterminate your species. Rodriguez considered the question. The Council had shown no mercy. Why should they? Because, she said finally, we're not you. The simple answer carried the weight of everything humans had learned. That becoming like your enemy was just another form of defeat. 6 months later, the first session of the Galactic Federation convened. Representatives from over 300 species gathered. Dr. Sharma stood at the central podium, the Federation's first Secretary General. 3 years ago, she began. The Galactic Council declared war on humanity. As we refused to submit. They believed that might made right. She looked around the chamber, at species who had been enslaved and oppressed for centuries. Today, we prove them wrong. Today, we establish a new principle, that all sentient beings have the right to determine their own destiny. The response was overwhelming. The most remarkable moment came when the Kthori delegate, the former High Counselor Tazara herself, rose to speak. I have lived for over 2,000 years, she said quietly. I have seen the conquest of 1,000 worlds. But I have never seen anything like what humanity has accomplished. You defeated us not just in battle, but in spirit. You showed us our way was wrong. And you offered us redemption, instead of revenge. The former ruler of the galaxy bowed deeply to the human representative. The Kthori request permission to join this federation as equal members. We wish to learn what it means to cooperate, instead of dominate. The Council had declared war on humans and sparked their own extinction. But from that extinction had risen something the galaxy had never seen before. A civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest. Diversity rather than dominance. Hope rather than fear.